I want to welcome everybody tonight, candidates and all of you, for coming to the Lee Summit Chamber's Mayoral Candidate Forum. I'm Matt Baird, President of the Lee Summit Chamber of Commerce, and again, I want to welcome you all here this evening. I want to express our appreciation to the Missouri Innovation Campus for allowing us to host the event tonight. They hosted last week, and they will be hosting our school board candidate forum next week. So I want to really truly appreciate their ability to host us this evening. I also want to thank our following members who have helped sponsor this evening's forum: AT&T, Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys, Missouri State Teachers Association, the Lee Summit Tribune, and Spire. So thank you to all of our sponsors for this evening. When you came in this evening, you may have noticed the table just right outside here as you were coming in that contained the candidate profiles, the booklets. It's got not only the mayoral candidates, but it's also got the city council candidates in there. So if you were not able to come last week, the same information is in those booklets tonight. The forum is being live streamed tonight on our Lee Summit Chamber Facebook page, and the recording of the forum will also be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you've got fans, friends, or family that can't be here tonight but would like to see the forum, they certainly can go to our Facebook page and watch it, or again, we will record it and post it later. Housekeeping items: there is water in the back of the room, and so just make sure if obviously you can grab a water throughout the evening. They're in the back. Restrooms are through the glass doors and to your right. I ask that you please put your phone on vibrate or mute for this evening's forum. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our moderators for this evening. We have Rodney Lush, Chair of the Chamber's Legislative Committee, and Kent Kirby, past Chair of the Chamber's Governmental Relations and Legislative Committee. Both of these fine individuals are active volunteers in the Lee Summit Chamber and longtime members in the community. We also have Carson Graff assisting as the timekeeper, and Jordan Straits will be coming around to gather questions from you, the audience, as you saw and we'll talk about the index cards that you can put questions on. So she will be coming around. Just all you need to do is put your hand in the air with your card, and she'll come by and pick it up. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Rodney.
Thank you, sir. I will read part of the script here just because we want to make sure that everybody understands the rules. Everybody in the audience understands the parameters of what we're doing here this evening. And again, I want to welcome everyone to the Lee Summit Chamber Mayoral Candidate Forum. Before we hear from our candidates, I'll outline our format. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for opening remarks. We'll go in alphabetical order, and then we'll go in reverse alphabetical order for the closing remarks. After the opening comments by the candidates, we will have a question and answer session. Questions have been generated by members of the Lee Summit Chamber and you, the audience. When you came in tonight, there were pens and index card in the hallway, and in case you want to submit a question, all you have to do is write the question and then hold it up, and Jordan will come around and pick them up. We ask our candidates to keep their answers to 2 minutes or less. So we're giving you up to 2 minutes for your answers. Both the opening remarks and the questions will be timed. Once the alarm goes off, please be considerate and finish speaking. We ask the candidates to honor their time commitment, and as time permits, we will provide that 2-minute closing remarks. Lastly, during the forum tonight, we ask the candidates to focus on answering the questions. Those that choose to make personal attacks will be warned. If a candidate is warned for a third time, they will be asked to leave and dismissed from the forum. So, in alphabetical order, we will begin with your opening remarks, Mayor Bill Baird.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Bill Baird. I'm running for the mayor of the city of Lee Summit because I want to keep Lee Summit moving forward. The last 4 years, our city council has prioritized public safety, healthy economic development, and collaboration with our community partners. We have taken care of all of our employees with better compensation and better pay. We've increased commercial investment in the city, and we've opened the door to new businesses. We've role modeled as a city council. By engaging with our community in a strategic plan and a comprehensive plan. We've taken care of business at City Hall in a civil and respectful manner. Over the last 4 years, as a result of all this, we've gained trust with our citizens, with our employees, our stakeholders, and even other governmental entities. I'm running for mayor because I want to continue in this positive direction. If reelected, I will continue to focus on public safety by providing life-saving equipment for our departments, as well as by expanding the departments because of the ever-increasing demand on our resources. We will also diversify our economy by focusing on aeronautics, e-commerce, transportation, distribution, and manufacturing to bring quality jobs to Lee Summit. And we will continually reinvest in our amazing culture and our wonderful amenities like our award-winning downtown. And we will bring to the downtown a farmer's market and a performance venue. For these reasons, I'm running for the City of Lee Summit mayor, and I thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Forte.
Thank you all. First of all, thank you all for being here. I'm glad it's not tomorrow night. I don't think any of you would be here. I don't know that I would be here. I'm running for mayor. I've been on the council for 8 years, and in that time, I've learned so much about the community, and I've learned so much about myself. I think that as the mayor, it is imperative that one would always listen, be collaborative, try to find solutions to those problems that might be there. Sometimes there are problems, sometimes there aren't. I feel like I'm the kind of person that is always ready to solve those problems. I honestly think that Lee Summit is by far the best community to live in the whole, wherever, the eastern Jackson County, Missouri, but I want to keep it at a community. I think I love us because we are a community, because our downtown is awesome. Every survey that we've ever done, every survey that's ever been done to the people in Lee Summit, and the two things that are number one and number two, maybe reversed, one or the other, it's always our public safety, it's always feeling safe in our homes, and it's always our parks. They're always number one and number two. I think that is something we have to do, and as mayor, my job is to listen. My job is to represent the community, and I think for 8 years I've done that with my district. It's a little different from District 1 to 4 districts. You find that out when you're campaigning. But I do think that as a council member, I've had the luxury of sitting on committees. I've had the luxury of meeting some wonderful council members who have now become very good friends. We all work together. There are 9 of us. We make decisions together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your opening remarks. Now we'd like to move into the next phase of the forum, which of course is the question and answer portion. All of the questions have been generated from our chamber members, as well as some of these audience members. So again, audience members, if you haven't submitted your question yet, be sure and put it on an index card and hold it up for Jordan to pick up. So as again, you will have up to 2 minutes to answer these questions. We will, and it will not affect your time, if we're unclear of an answer that you gave, we will ask for clarification. So, since Mr. Baird started first, we'll begin the first question with you, Diane. Now that you've shared your vision for Lee Summit, how do you intend to go about gaining support and consensus within the council?
Being on different councils, I recognize that consensus is it's conversation, it's dialogue. When we are talking in the back room, which I call that's the council chambers, or in the front room, council chambers, and the council dining room is what I call it. We collaborate a lot. We speak to each other. We respect each other, and it's easy to say, I want it to go my way. But I'm one person, I'm 1/9, and there are 8 other opinions in any situation that we have to listen to. We don't have to always agree, but we can compromise. You have to compromise in some things that you want. You might not be able to convince others all the time of what you think. So I found it very, very easy, and really, I think it's educational because other people have different thoughts, and I think it's great to listen to them. Don't always have to agree, but at the end of the day, at the end of the meeting, we walk away, and the next, all I want to do is the next thing is next. That's past. We've talked about that, so we're done. So it's just next, and you just go on. Thank you.
Bill?
Thank you. Similar, but just my approach as mayor is that I believe that healthy discussion is imperative. I think it's okay to have, there's 9 of us if you count the mayor. I do vote as mayor with our charter. And it's important to have healthy discussion, and it's okay to have some 9-0 votes and 8-1, 7-2, and 6-3. I do try to avoid a 5-4. I've worked really hard the last 4 years. When I see the council headed towards a 5-4 vote, as you read the room, I try to encourage us as a council to push this back, maybe back to the developer, maybe the applicant, maybe the city staff, and find a better solution. Find a better solution so that we can have a better consensus. In the last 4 years, I think we've had 3, maybe 4, so that's 1 a year where a 5-4 vote occurred. And I think it's because sometimes you have to slow the process down. That was a hard lesson for me to learn when I first got to office. I don't like to slow down, I like to go forward, but it's the best way to make a decision. It's the best process, and I do think that also to what Councilmember Forte said, moving forward, we have to move forward and give each other grace after the vote. You may be upset about the way it went, but we have to, for the betterment of the team, of the council, of the city, we have to move forward with the next decision. So, thank you.
All right. And following up on that question, is there a time recently when your vote was different from the rest of the city council? What was the issue and why? And we'll begin with Bill.
There's been a few. I've lost quite a few votes over the years. I would say, I'm trying to think on the proactive code enforcement. No, that was consensus. I was with the consensus on that one. Let's see. There's been numerous times that I've been a no vote or possibly a yes vote when everybody else was a no. I know that that as far as the proactive code enforcement, that was one where it's a tough thing. It's a tough transition if we were to go that route. And we're gonna see how it goes. We're gonna look at it. It's one of those types of things where I think there was enough uncertainty that it could easily come back to the council. Not only next year, but maybe even in 6 months, because it's going to be something that we need to evaluate ongoing. And I think we all have concerns, but I think we've talked through it and we've made a good decision to go forward, at least at this time.
All right. Thank you. Diane?
I've had several votes where I might not have agreed and voted a different way. 2 of them that stand out. One of them was a recent multifamily for some incentives, and I didn't really feel like that we should do that, and so I voted no. I really always think that I try to explain my situation and why I'm at that. I'm going to vote no. The other one, the biggest one in the room, would probably be the diversity and inclusion, and I did vote no on that, and I voted no mostly on the process that was used to come up with the Diversity and Inclusion Commission. It started out as a resolution, And being on the committee process like I've been for 8 years, those usually start at a committee level, and then we talk about them and they go up. This one came down as a resolution. There were already 12 names on the resolution before we even saw, when we saw it as a council. I didn't really feel like that was exactly the way, and I expressed myself in different ways privately, and so then we brought it back. The mayor listened, and we as a council said, we really want to add names. We don't think it should be just these names. We wanted to add them because that's normally what we had done the whole 8 years I'd been on the council, or 4 probably at the time. Every council member would add names. So when they came back to us to add names, my names weren't picked. So I was, I guess, a little bit disturbed by that. And then as the process went on, I started listening to what was happening, and I started listening to the meetings. I jumped on Zoom meetings, and I just felt like there's nothing. I think I'm all for diversity and inclusion. I just didn't know as a city we should do this going out into businesses and going out into the community. I felt like that was something we needed to do within the city.
Thank you. So our next question, and we'll start with Diane. What do you think is the biggest opportunity facing our city, and how will you address it?
It's hard to, excuse me, it's hard to pick one. Obviously, every city in the Missouri and eastern Jackson County would love the opportunity to have 4,000 acres that PRI is going to want to develop in Lee Summit, and there's so much opportunity with that. And I think that there are things that we're going to be able to handle with that are going to be amazing, but it's also a way that we're going to get more commercial and more community activities, but it's also an issue of infrastructure. It's opportunities that will cause us to be very, very innovative on how we're going to get infrastructure. And do I just get one? Because we have so many opportunities. We also have opportunities with our downtown market center. That's going to be amazing. We have. We are probably the #1 city that people want to be at. We're at 103,000, and people come here for a reason. But the opportunity of PRI, I don't really know what we'll have to do because we haven't really delved into that. I just know that any city that can get 4,000 acres in commercial and recreation and community projects, that's going to be awesome. Thank you.
Great. And what do you think the biggest opportunity is?
I think similar. I couldn't disagree with the PRI, which is the 4,100 acres. 1,100 acres are on the north side of Lee Summit, and that 1,100 acres is so geographically blessed as far as being in a prime spot in relation to 70 Highway. 470, of course, is right beside it. If the area I'm talking about is along Todd George Road as you go up to Woods Chapel. And there's 1,100 acres. It's huge. 4,100 acres is 2/3 the size of Raytown. 1,100 is gigantic, and it's right there where you could go to 70. You're across the highway from the airport. You're looking at going back on 470 back to Kansas. It's a transportation hub. And when you take that and you consider, it would be mixed use, but the opportunity there for industrial, for those types of jobs I was talking about, for distribution, e-commerce, transportation, and more, it's an incredible opportunity. The issue is the infrastructure, and we have got to come up with a plan. The city staff is working on a plan. We will be discussing this at great lengths, and the decisions we make over the next year or two are going to be critical to the future of Lee Summit, especially that 1,100 acres.
Thank you. Then conversely, and we will start with you, Bill, what would you identify as the biggest challenge facing the city, and how would you address it?
Well, that certainly is the biggest challenge is the infrastructure. I'll try to expand to something different. I think that when you look at the growth of our community, we're projected to grow at to 40,000 people over the next 20 years. And handling that growth in a responsible way is critical. Making sure that we have a continuum of housing options, making sure that we have a diversity of commercial. When you look at commercial, we've had a lot of great commercial come in over the last 4 years. In fact, well over $1 billion in new construction, with much of it being commercial. And the fact is, when you look at the type of commercial that's come here, retail, dining, and such, it's wonderful. It makes great for living and playing. But the work part, we need to bring some jobs here. We need to focus on as we grow, making sure that we are growing and bringing jobs to our community so that we can benefit from the tremendous economic output and the synergy that comes with bringing 100 jobs here. 100 jobs typically brings another 100 jobs in supplier jobs and forward linkage jobs. 100 jobs typically results in 20 to 40 million in economic output and lots of sales tax dollars for our community, because people that come to jobs spend money at our gas stations, our grocery stores, and our restaurants. So we have got to find a way to grow in a balanced way.
Do you mind repeating the question?
What would you identify as the biggest challenge facing our city, and how would you address it?
I couldn't disagree with Bill at all on infrastructure, because we know we have infrastructure needs. And infrastructure, not just for big business or for new growth, we have infrastructure in our downtown areas. We have infrastructure in neighborhoods that need stormwater. We have sidewalks that, some communities have great, nice sidewalks, some don't. We have places where there are no sidewalks. We also have, but the infrastructure really, I know it's just a word, but it is a serious challenge that we have, and we have got some ideas on it. We're going to have a study go out as to where the biggest needs are. We also have just what we're looking for in the community and communication of what we're going to do. I'm a small business person, so I love all the big business, but I've always said that Lee Summit is an industry, a small industry type of company, and that's what I think we are. And I know we've got a company that's putting another 160,000 square feet onto the 160,000 that they have. I want to keep people here, working here. I think that's a challenge, and I think that I just want to represent the business world as far as being open and capable of listening to the needs. And I also want to talk to the small business that needs, what do they need from the city? Because we have everything, and we've got the citizens. What are your issues? What do you need? And how can we get better? We need to understand what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong, and then we need to find the solution to be better.
Thank you. Diane, we'll start with you on this question. As mayor, how do you anticipate monitoring and measuring the progress of your new city manager? Also, the boards and commissions, such as planning commission, et cetera. Specifically, how do you see yourself involved in these activities?
That's really an exciting question, because I don't know, for those of you that don't know, we did announce and voted on Mark Dunning to be the new city manager. Mark started at the city in codes, I think. We've all, and I know, and we talked about this last night, so I'm not going to say anything more than what Bill would say, but it was an easy choice as to who to pick for the next city manager. I see myself as the person that will work really well with Mark, and there might be 4 new council members. You don't know. There's definitely going to be 2 new council members. I like just having the conversations with all the council members on what they feel and how they feel we're going to be successful. To be successful, we have to collaborate with each other. To be successful, we have to stand in front of you like every Tuesday night and make the decisions and make the right decisions that we need. I feel like Mark Dunning will be the perfect person to be in the city manager's role. He's been in development. I've worked with Mark. I feel like for the 4 or 5 months before Steve leaves, because Steve Arbo, our city manager, won't be leaving until September, and I see really great things as a new mayor to sit down with Mark and the city council without going against the sunshine rule, but we can all talk about what we see in our future of the city of Lee Summit and what we see for the community. So that I can't wait to do that, because I think that'd be the best thing in the world, to have a new city manager, a mayor that collaborates and talks and communicates. I'm excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, yes, I'm a big fan of Mark Dunning as well, and I think a lot of people are happy about the choice. I'm pleased with the transition time that we have for Mark and Steve. It's really gonna benefit the community and the city greatly. When it comes to our role as a board, as a council, it's the same as any other board or governmental board. Typically, we supervise one person. We supervise the city manager as a council. It's our job to provide vision, to set policy and laws, to provide governance, and then provide accountability. And Mark Dunning he is a process person. We are going to follow the process, and I believe in the process. My job as mayor is to help facilitate the meetings and keep us focused on the process, but also the vision, policy, governance, and accountability. When it comes to Mark, he's been in this business for a long time in this city. He knows the process better than anyone, just as well as our attorneys and more. So we're going to be in good hands. I'm looking forward to it, and it's going to be wonderful.
Thank you. The next 3 questions, some that we had and some that have come in from the audience, are going to relate to economic development. So, Bill, we will start with you. Many projects are in the development phase. How do you envision your role in helping these projects come to fruition?
Well, we've got one that just recently came into fruition and is a reality, and it's not far from this building. Just to the east of us, we recently announced approved 800,000 square feet of industrial buildings, 3 buildings, one of 450,000 square feet, another one 250,000, and another one that's 113,000. This will bring quality jobs. And how did this come to fruition? We've been working on this as a council for a couple of years, but the truth is, and the reality is, stakeholders in our community, the Economic Development Council, and many more have been calling for this type of spec buildings for decades. This is the first time we've done something like this in 15 plus years. So when it comes to the making it happen, it's working in coordination with the EDC. It's working with our development team, the Mark Dunnings of the world, who's now going to step up, talking and getting the word out that Lee Summit is open for business. And we've done that. We have shown, and guess what? You can talk to the Economic Development Council. You can talk to our development department, and you will find out that this has resulted in a magnificent number of calls and interest in our community. So demand is as high as can be right now for Lee Summit.
I would definitely agree on the spec buildings. And I know Rick's in the audience, and we talked about the businesses wanting a building to just move into. And I also think that the development, I've been the chair of the CEDC, the Community Economic Development Committee, for three out of the last 4 years. And when we, in order to get development, you've got to recognize that there is going to be incentives that are going to be asked, because they ask in every place they go. Sometimes you have to look at those and look at what you're getting for the incentive. You look at them individually. But in 2015, we did do an economic development policy. And we look at it every 2 years, and it's amazing. by going back to that policy, it shows how you can make economic development, bring the companies in, know what they're going to do, but you can't give everything away. But you have to give, because they're going to come into places, when we go back to that infrastructure, they may have to pay for that infrastructure because it's not there. And so when a developer comes in and there's not infrastructure there, they're going to ask for incentives, or they're just going to go away. So what you do is you just you communicate with the council. You look at it. I'm a Ben Franklin closed person. I put everything on the positive and on the negative. And so when I look at development, I always look at what is the best thing for the city. And most developments we have done, I can't think. There have been a few that you don't know for sure if it is the best for the city. I've been wrong on a few, and I've been right on a few, but overall, it's something that you have to look individually, and I think we have grown a lot, and that the spec building, I think that will open up just like other things have opened us up. Thank you.
As a follow-up question, and we'll begin with Diane, we've received a few questions regarding development incentives, TIFs, CIDs. Please tell us why or why not you support policies to incentivize economic development in the city.
You would have thought I answered that the last time, but I'll go ahead and talk about it.
Well,
But I will tell you, CIDs, I think are the best things for when someone, I don't know if you can go down and look at the 3rd Street, like 3rd Street, I don't remember what it's called, but where the Hy-Vee is, and they've redone that entire shopping center. That's a CID. That means that those people that come and buy at that store, those stores will pay an extra 1%. But the developer has put a lot of money, and it looks nice. You've got to look at the redevelopment for older centers. I was in Independence today, and I went to a meeting, and there were so many shopping centers that were closed. And then I drove back through 2 and went by both of ours that we've revitalized, and I'm very proud of that. So that was an incentive that those would not be revitalized without those incentives. The TIFs, I think I've already talked about. I just think that it's a lot of infrastructure mostly, but I do think that CIDs are great for when those developers can give us ideas of how they're going to make it nicer. And we've got some old shopping centers, guys, that really look nice right now, and so I'm really proud of that.
Bill?
Yes, well, incentives are an economic tool that, if used correctly, are going to bring in a lot more dollars and benefits to our community than you give up, or than you were getting before. I will say that, when we talk about how did it come to fruition a few minutes ago with regard to 800,000 square feet, the reality is Lee Summit had to get into the incentive game. If you want to compete, we had to get in the incentive game to bring those buildings here. And we watched this happen in Lenexa, Wyandotte County, Johnson, of course, Overland Park, Liberty. We've even seen it happen in Blue Springs because they were getting in the game. Liberty has had a few big successes. And it's like, what do we got to do? Because we have demand. We have the workforce to fill jobs. We are surrounded also by a workforce to help fill jobs. So what is holding things up? We weren't in the incentive game. What's great about it, though, is the demand is so high that businesses want to be so bad in Lee Summit that we have not had to give the incentives, near the incentives, not even close to the incentives that other communities are giving away to come to our community. We do have a phenomenal legal counsel that helps us structure these correctly. That's a big part of this as well. We've done some creative ones, other than the industrial buildings. When you look at the streets of West Pryor, it had incentives. That's where the McKeevers and Firebirds and all that commercial development is. But that development has overproduced by double what they projected just 4 years ago. So what do we do? We make sure that we're using experienced, expert, qualified developers. We look at the plan, we project the rate of return.
As a follow-up, and we'll begin then with you, sir, a question from the audience. What are your opinions on unions and bringing union jobs to Lee Summit?
What are my opinion? Well, I support the unions as far as we have represented groups right here in our own city. We have the IAFF and the FOP, that's the firefighters and the police. We have the machinists, which is called the IAM. They're our employees. I support them. We took care of them 4 years ago after years of basically conflict. We came in, we worked with them, but we also took care of all of our employees. That wasn't just those represented groups. When I came to office, we were 10% below pay across the board for all employees, including our police and fire. And we came in, within 12 months, we identified a 10.7% average increase to get them to market. And we've sustained that over the last few years. Whether they're in the union or not, they're our employees. And so the question is kind of a tough one, because when I got to office, I basically said, no more talking about unions. We don't use that word. These are our employees. That's it. They're ours. We're all one. We're one team. So that's how we got past some of the conflict, is eliminated the language that was dividing us.
Is the question about employees? What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Well, what are your opinions on unions and bringing union jobs to Lee Summit?
I don't really have I'm a pro-union person. I don't have that I'm an anti-union person. I'm a small business person, so I'm not as familiar with unions. What I am familiar with is good employees, and I think that when I know we as a city, we're under guidelines on bringing workers in. It's prevailing wage, which is a lot of times unions. I'm just not going to. I don't think that everything has to be the union. I don't think everything has to be non-union. I think when we looked at our employees, I never looked at them as union and non-union. We've looked at them, every 4 years or so, we would negotiate, and we would negotiate with the represented groups. I always looked at them as represented groups. I just feel like as a city, you've got to be flexible and you've got to be accepting. And so small business people do not have unions, so it'd be hard for me to say I'm pro-union or anti-union, because the union jobs are great jobs, and I think that the unions came along when they were supposed to, and I think they do what they're supposed to.
Thank you. Well, relating to the employees that you just talked about, our question is, do you support the city's half-cent sales tax ballot initiative that will go to support public safety? And along with that, how do you define public safety? And I think we have to start with Diane, I believe.
Thank you. When I said in the beginning that the two, what the people in our surveys always like the best, and we're always at the top, were our parks and our public safety. Our parks have a half-cent sales tax, and they've had it for a long time. And I think it's a great way for them to take the money that the park gets, and we have wonderful parks. On the half-cent increase for public safety, I am definitely for that. And the reason I'm for that is it's very hard for a city to maintain the comparables that we're up against with other cities, with our represented groups. And I think that our police, our fire need to be well paid. And I also think that that it's important that we do that for them. I think we've talked about it in the past, and this year it just came up that we would hopefully get across and do that. But what it means for me, public safety, it means that when I call, if I have a fire, I'm going to call the fire department and they're going to be there. And if I need a police officer, he's going to be there. And I feel like we are in a very safe community. And so I think safety is important, and I think it's worth a half a cent.
The half-cent public safety sales tax has been implemented in just about every single community, city around us. Belton, Blue Springs, Independence, Raytown, Grandview, and all of their sales tax rates are well above ours, as in a lot more than 0.5% typically. Even after passing this, we would be at the low end of sales tax rates compared to the cities and municipalities around us. What would we do with that money? Well, we got 7 fire stations, and we have 6 ambulances. We need another ambulance. We need a fire suppression truck. We haven't gotten a new one since I think 2007 is the date. We need more police officers. We struggle to keep enough on the roads. Public safety is priority number 1. I'm excited about the fact that we've put co-responders, which are basically mental health police officers. We have a temporary position that is in place. We want to make these permanent. We want to add to them. These are police officers trained in mental health that go do wellness checks. They don't show up at a wellness check in a uniform, in a bulletproof vest or a gun. They have a different uniform. They don't show up in a marked car. They come in a different car. The police chief and the higher ups for the police force, they're very excited about this. They've had tremendous success. These are the types of things that we will be able to put in place with that half-cent public safety sales tax. And I am very much for it, and I hope that you'll vote for it on April 5th.
Thank you. So moving then to a couple questions we have on housing. Bill, what is the right balance between multifamily housing and single-family housing for Lee Summit?
Well, it's more. I'm going to stand up for this one. We have to have a continuum of product in Lee Summit when it comes to single-family, multifamily, and such. I'm going to have to tell a story with this one. My daughter recently got married. She moved into an apartment. Next, she's right now purchasing a half duplex. In a few years, she might buy a single family home. Then 5 years later, she might progress up. She might progress again 7 or more years later down the line into her forever home that we always say is our forever home. And then someday she'll start entering that boomer age that many of my friends are in, and she's going to move back down to her single family. What's the right mix? What's the right amount? We have studies that we put together with regard to the apartments. I do get a lot of questions about apartments. We need to have a steady continuum of product. Okay, the right mix is you're going to have a lot more single family than multifamily units, a lot more. However, you have to have that beginning point for that millennial and younger, which I'm not sure what the 25-year-old's called anymore, but because millennials are nearly 40 years old. But the fact is, we do need to have some apartments, and I'd love to expand on it with regard to why we need to have some apartments, because they do help with all the commercial investments that we're talking about that are coming to our community. They do help with the density, and some of the people that are living in these apartments, for example, Streets of West Pryor, the median income is higher than the median income in Lee Summit. The people living in that apartment building are making more money than the average person in Lee Summit.
I think that in the last few years, the interest rates have been so low that people that didn't think they could own a home were able to own a home. But also the inflation and the price have gone up so high that some of us who bought our homes maybe 10, 15 years ago couldn't even afford the house we live in now, because they've gone up so much. The balance should be, basically, Lee Summit's done an amazing job with the balance up until I think lately it seems like we are getting more multifamily and apartments than we are single family. It's not really that much of a difference, but for the average person, and even for myself, it just seems like that we are always looking at new multifamily housing. We need them. We have to have them. But I do think that we need to at least take a little bit more time and look at what we're being presented, because I think sometimes we see something and we vote on it. Later on, it's like, wow, that's 320 units, that's 278 units. But so far it's worked. But I really do think in the future we need to look for it. And I just went through a whole, I think, century over here with your daughter, because she just got married. Now you got her as a boomer. And I'm thinking, but we do need to have housing for the younger people. But I think that it doesn't seem like people get their own apartment. They kind of room with someone, or because our apartments aren't cheap. But I think we've done a good job. But I think that going forward, we actually need to really think it through, because our community thinks that we have too many. And I think that we need to really listen to what they're saying and talk about that. And it needs to be, we just need to be a little bit more genuine in going forward.
I think our next question will help both of you clarify some of your points there. Expanding on the issue, what is your definition of affordable housing, and how should the city address that issue?
I think that affordable means a lot different. No, I don't even know. I think we need a study on what's affordable housing. I mean, is it 180,000? Is it 220,000? I know that our average houses are 330,000 in Lee Summit, and I know that with interest rates being very low, that $330,000 house you can get into, but I think it's the down payment that gets people from going into homes. Attainable housing is something that we all want. Everybody wants to have attainable housing, but a city really can't be everything for everyone. I'm just going to be honest. I think we have the apartments, and I think we have houses, and I think that sometimes we have to recognize that we might have to. I lived in an apartment when I first got married. I moved up every single house, and we're fortunate now to have a beautiful home, but we didn't have that in the beginning, and I think we try to make it so that our young people can have all that in the beginning, and it's just not feasible. So for me, affordable means it means a different amount for a lot of people. I think right now I'd like to have affordable gas. So that's just my idea, because it's not even affordable. Thank you.
Well, I think the apartment that my daughter moved into was when she got married and joined the workforce. So I'm going to call that workforce housing. I'm going to call that maybe attainable housing, like Councilmember Forte said. I don't call it affordable. I think that's for the most part defined as something that you shouldn't be making more than the median income of a citizen in Lee Summit to be able to move into. So that's not affordable. I do think it's important to have that entry level rental apartment. If my daughter had gone to Overland Park and to get an apartment there, she might have fell in love with their amenities, their culture, their restaurants, and she might have bought her first house there, and we might not have got her back. So yeah, I know it's only 30 minutes away, and I could go over there and enjoy their amenities, but I want people, and I want my daughter and my family here in Lee Summit enjoying it here. When it comes to affordable housing, listen, we haven't done affordable housing in Lee Summit, expanded affordable housing in 25 years. We have some affordable housing, but as far as I would love to have one small affordable housing accomplishment. I would love that in my next 4 years. I think the way to do that is would probably be an apartment building where you would have low income, moderate income, and market rates. That's what I think is probably a good first step for Lee Summit. Something that sounds appealing, and I think is something that we could all agree upon. I think it's a middle ground rather than just maybe an entire project. So I do think there's ways to do affordable, and I think I'm trying to explain what I think affordable is, and I think that would be the path. If we could get something like that done in the next 4 years, I would be proud of that.
Very good. In addressing those populations that may need affordable housing, what are your thoughts on increasing program development for the underprivileged and the underserved populations in our community? And Bill, we'll start with you.
I'm definitely for it. When I say that we haven't had expanded on our affordable housing in 25 years, our underprivileged, and what was the other part of it? Underprivileged and
underserved.
And underserved community has increased. I mean, we all know this. It has increased. We need to be looking out for everyone in our community. And when I think about the prices of homes, like Councilmember Forte was referencing a minute ago, they have gone through the roof. My mom would not be able to afford the house that she lives in if she were to move to Lee Summit right now. I think that every one of your moms should be able to move to Lee Summit. You should be able to get them in a home in Lee Summit. I know that one of our best friends would love to move her mom into a rental in Lee Summit, but there's just no way on a limited income. And I think that these need to be conversations that we have for the next 4 years. They're not fun conversations because some people don't like these conversations, but I'm willing to have them. I think I've proven that over the last 4 years.
I think that as a council, it is our job to take care of all of our citizens, but we can't take care of all of our citizens. I think that there are great programs one of them is Lee Summit Social Services. And I would as a city really want to support Lee Summit Social Services more. And I would like to be able to sit down with Lee Summit Social Services. They keep track of the people that go in and need help. And I think that is, we have a transportation system that people don't even recognize. My husband had a gentleman that worked for him that he needed help. And my husband told him, go to Lee Summit Social Services, and the guy cried. And we just need to take what we have and expand it. And I don't know how we do that, but as a city, it is very difficult to go into personal things like people being underserved. The schools try really hard, and I know they do a lot, and we would be able to connect people. It's a connecting thing. It's connecting the people that need it to what we have. And I think that as a city, as a council person, as a mayor, I'm not going to be able to do that, but as a mayor or city council, I can connect people, and we can get a lot of that done. I was privileged to start a task force on our homeless, and the mayor agreed that we needed a homeless task force. And we have really found out some very interesting things about the homeless. And it's difficult. It's difficult for all of us to see homeless people. We're not used to that. And so we have to learn what to do and how to help homeless people. And you recognize when you start with the mental health issues, and we've got a great little committee, that there's a lot of people that are homeless because they want to be homeless, not because they don't have a place to stay.
Okay. That kind of brings us circle around to one thing that you had mentioned, and that's diversity and inclusion. So beginning with you, Diane, what's your position on the diversity and inclusion work in Lee Summit?
Well, I know that the chamber has done one, and I think it went really well. I think that we've started a commission, and I think they're working with a consultant. I've listened to a lot of it. I've been very excited. I think the gal that's working with the commission, I think she's going to do a really good job. I just don't know at what extent a city. I don't know what extent a city does in going into businesses and having conversations about diversity and inclusion. I think that businesses get employees and they get, I mean, right now it's difficult to get any employees, but I feel like that's an intrusion in our businesses. I don't know that I feel like going into people's homes like there's the education one. I think I like what they say. I like the committees trying to do a really good job. I just find it to be intrusive for this city. I think our own city hall, our own employees, absolutely, because that's what I think we're responsible for. I think that we need to look at, are we doing the right thing in the city before we start going out into businesses? That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Bill?
Well, the D&I Commission is something that I'm really proud of. It's a blueprint. We're creating a blueprint as to how to have healthy discussions about diversity and inclusion. It's all about embracing the differences in the community, valuing each other's culture and background, and striving to create a culture of inclusion and openness. So, yes, I think all stakeholders should be involved. I think everyone should be talking, not just the school district in their own little bubble over here talking. Everyone, businesses, the arts, education, the health and wellness community. This isn't just a race thing. It's about the underserved and underprivileged that you mentioned. It's about the elderly. It's about people of every demographic, disabilities, you name it. We have had the hardest conversations as a council, and I could not be prouder of that council for what they got through. This was tough for a city like Lee Summit to go through this and to be one of the only diversity and inclusion commissions in the state, and to be engaging with all the stakeholders. We're doing something special. And you know what? It's going to get people's notice, and people are going to say, you know what? That's the kind of community I want to live in. The ones that are having these conversations systematically all throughout the years, rather than waiting for a crisis to happen and then all of a sudden we all want to talk about diversity. No. That's not how you do this. We're getting ahead of this, just like with the homelessness. You get ahead of it. We don't have a huge homeless problem, but we have a homeless problem. You get ahead of it by putting together commissions, by talking, by getting all your stakeholders involved. And we have great stakeholders and great organizations in this community to have these conversations.
Well, following up on that, the city's developed a working partnership with key leadership organizations, public institutions, and civic groups. And we'll begin with you, Bill. As mayor, what role would you play to maintaining those positive working relationships between the city and these organizations, institutions, and groups?
Wow, that's like my favorite question of the night, because I do believe in collaboration. I do believe in working with every single stakeholder when it comes to a nonprofit, when it comes to the school districts, when it comes to the colleges. We have had, when I came to office, I'm like, how do we do this? Let's have joint meetings. We started having joint meetings in this very room with the school district. We've had 3. The first one was a little awkward because we hadn't been good partners for a while. We really hadn't had these conversations, but we've come a long way. We're working together. Workforce development, they're all in with our EDC and with us, the city. We are doing great things in workforce development. Huge. It's amazing what we're doing. When it comes to other things, we've been having it's kind of more intergovernmental joint meetings with the Planning Commission, making sure we're all on the same page, making sure that we are communicating. When it comes to the nonprofits in the community, we mentioned the homeless. There's Rediscover, there's Hillcrest, there's Lee Summit Social Services. We have to be collaborating. What I think was great is when we did the strategic plan the last couple of years, we had as many of those stakeholders in the room as possible. We were working together, we were collaborating, we were trying to solve for what is our plan, how are we going to get there, how can we address health and wellness, homelessness, and so much more. So it takes very much a mindful intention. I feel like you have to push for it. You have to push for collaboration. You have to say, hey, we need to get together. You have to set the meetings. You have to plan it out, and you got to follow through, and not just let it dissipate over time by not meeting. So it's about consistency. Thank you.
Diane?
As a volunteer, which is what I started as in the city of Lee Summit, I started with the chamber and downtown. What I have found is that we have the most incredible community that wants to volunteer. They want to be on boards, they want to be on commissions, and they want to help. And talking to the stakeholders, talking to leaders, I think it's imperative that the mayor, and I think a mayor and the council to, we've had meetings and we've all sat down and we've talked and we've talked and we've talked and we've talked. I want to listen. I just want to have a meeting and sit and listen to what the issues are that community wants to talk about. Because I really think that we can get more done if we're in a position to say, what can we do for you? What as a city are we not doing for you? And this is with leaders. This is with, I was talking to the CEO of St. Luke's Hospital the other day at a meeting, and I gave him an idea of what I thought I would like to do when and if I become mayor. And we talked about, it went to the level that I had no idea, but all it was, Bobby, what can I do? What can we do to help you, and what can we talk about? And how can we be better? And if we don't ask those questions, you can have a million meetings, and you're not going to get anything across unless you sit down and listen, and I would like to do that.
Well, in following up with that, and you'll get this particular question, as mayor, what do you see the city council's role in working with the school district?
I think that honest conversation, honest dialogue needs to happen with the leaders and the city council. We've had meetings, and they were in a big room, and it was. I'm more of a sit down and let's talk about what we can do. We have like 5 school districts. I happen to be, and I think there are 2 of us. 2 of us on the council are in different school districts than LSR 7. I'm in the Ray-Peck School District. And we have Councilmember Lopez, he's in the Blue Springs School District. And I think Councilmember Edson is too now. So there's a lot of issues in the LSR 7 that they're not having in Ray-Peck, and they're not having in Blue Springs. So I think that as the city of Lee Summit, we need to have honest conversations about what's happening, because honestly, what happens at the school district, it's not in our jurisdiction, and the council can't really make decisions, but that we need to be talking about it's affecting the city. And I don't care if anybody wants to think that it's not, but the LSR 7 and what's happening there, good or bad, whatever you think about it, it is affecting our city. So we need to talk about it. So I will always sit down and I will always talk, and I think that our council would be more than willing to do that if they had the opportunity.
Bill? Well,
with regard to the relationship, I mean, it's all about the relationship. We share a common citizen with all of our school districts. So they're our citizen as a city. They're the school district's citizen, depending on which school district you're talking about. And I think we have a duty to the citizens to have a collaborative relationship. We need to be working together. We need to be looking out for each other. What we do as a city affects our schools. What the schools do affects our brand. We share the same brand. So therefore, absolutely, we need to be working together. We don't have authority over the schools. So I think that that's something that people often get confused about. Yes, we can. I think the way that we, as a city council, can communicate with the schools is through the board. I think that the city manager, currently Steve Arbo, soon to be Mark Dunning, needs to be communicating with their peer, which would be Dr. Buck. But we need to have relationships with the boards. vision, policymaking, governance, accountability. We have the same jobs. We need to help each other, and we need to look out for each other. So I'm excited about partnering up. I think we should be uniting resources. We did that with the 29150 interchange. We all worked together, not just the school district, and the city, but also MoDOT, the governor, and the Missouri Highway Patrol. So this is how you get things done. You can't just force other jurisdictions or municipalities or whoever governmental entities to do things. We have to find common ground, and we have to work together.
Continuing on then, in regards to the development of our city, which may or may not be economic development, it may be other type of development, but what do you think the city's role should be in the development of the PRI land? Bill?
Well, first off, we're on our game on that. We put together a comp plan, and we included the PRI land. So we did a strategic plan, and we followed it up with a comp plan. That comp plan was a year's worth of meetings with the Planning Commission, and they did a great job. Thank you, Planning Commission. With regard to the comp plan, we have set out what we think the land uses will be for the PRI properties. With regard to what happens next, PRI is I know at this point going to come forward. They've done the engineering, so they've determined where all the sewers, water, roads are, and where they aren't, which it's a lot of land. So there's a lot of gaps in infrastructure. The city's role going forward on this is to find a solution for the infrastructure. That's going to be the key. When we talked about that 1,100 acres on the north side, the key is going to be how do we work with PRI on the infrastructure so that we can follow the comp plan. That's the big variable right now. It's gonna take some creativity. It's gonna take some dollars that we're gonna have to look at as a community, as a city, and we're gonna have to look at our capital improvements buckets of money, and we're gonna have to say, what are we willing to put into this? That's the only path. But think about the opportunity. 1,100 acres, we get to plan an entire little city right there in the way we want. It's one of the reasons I'm running for mayor.
Diane?
As a council member, we haven't really gotten an awful lot of information about PRI. They're pretty much, we kind of get bits and pieces about what they're thinking. I wish we did know more. I do know that we're going to have, the infrastructure is going to be a challenge, but I also think that the community as a whole, and I would love to sit down with the PRI once we get going, when we get going on PRI. Our whole community, we have developers, we have bankers, we have groups that can get together and sit down, and the utility companies. Why don't we get the utility companies? Why don't we get Spire, and why don't we get Evergy together? And we sit down and collaborate on, this is good for them. It's going to be good for developers. It's going to be good for utility companies. It's going to be good for all of us. When we get to that point and it becomes a little bit more personal of PRI, and not just PRI, but the people in PRI, and then you're talking to those that want to really, I think we have to get to that point, because right now all I know as a council member is they're coming, and this is how many acres we have, and this is how much we have to do with the infrastructure. I'm excited about moving forward with that and getting it to where it's more on a personal basis, and we're talking to people that are coming to our city and going to develop in it.
Well, then we'll continue along with development, but some development isn't bricks and mortar, but some of it's development of people and things that affect people. How would we continue to position Lee Summit as a hub for arts, entertainment, and culturally rich opportunities for our residents and our visitors?
This is, when you're on council and you become liaisons, and you become liaisons in different committees, and honestly, I'm a right brain person. So cultural arts, art, I've not ever it's not ever been the way that I go. I just don't move that way. I got on the Arts Council and I loved it. And I loved listening, and I loved the passion of what is in our arts and what's in our theater, and I am excited about that. But I think that happens through the community. Like you can have a community, like our Summit Theater. They brought us so much of the theater into the streets of Lee Summit, and I think that the amphitheater that I'm very proud of that we have has brought in groups that. We can all think about it. It's been 2 years since we've been able to do a lot of this. So a lot of the times we've kind of forgotten how that was. But I think that in order to do that, we have UCM College. We have so many areas that we have a new art studio downtown Lee Summit. I mean, it's it's darling. And we've got to start young. Kids have to know what they want to do, and that might be something they're interested in. I just wasn't that person, but I think we have to offer that for everyone. The schools do an amazing job with that, and then getting something for those young people when they graduate, and then I think John Knox does my mother-in-law lives in John Knox. They do a great job with that. So it's not something that I'm not an artist, and I'm not an actress, so I would have to defer that to the Arts Council and putting people together with Glenda, our arts person at the city, and she does an amazing job.
Bill?
Well, I'm super proud of the arts in Lee Summit as far as the passion that our community has for the arts is. I didn't realize how strong it was until I became mayor, and then I saw how the Arts Council is probably the most sought after citizen committee to be on. I mean, and they're highly engaged, maybe the most engaged council. I think the key, though, with the arts is to realize that we all have a little appreciation for the arts in us, and sometimes we don't know that. And the way to use the arts is to bring the arts to the people, bring the arts to the downtown, to the activity centers that we have, to the public spaces where people are walking and gathering, to create those mindful moments like you have when you're walking downtown, and like when you're hanging out by the sculptures and by the murals on the walls, and you're going through an arts festival. I think it's important. Just this last week, the Parade of Hearts, a metro-wide initiative. Lee Summit's blessed with 5 locations of these huge fiberglass art hearts, the Hearts of KC, and you got to check it out. The pictures of these magnificent pieces of work are amazing. And we're going to put these in places in our community, and people are going to see them, and people are going to gather, and they're going to be points of conversation. And you know what? They bring people together. It's all about the spirit of community, and the arts are a big part of the spirit of community that we have. I know there's more going on than just the Arts Council. We have a nonprofit that is started that is going to be dedicated to helping the Arts Council and other art organizations to be more present.
All right. Another thing that affects people, which probably 3 years ago no one even thought about even existed, is a health department. Starting with Bill, do you think Lee Summit should have its own health department? And then please explain your answer.
Sure. Well, we knew this was coming, Councilmember Forte and I, because it was a question last week, and it still is a question in the community. I think the figure you used last week was $4 million a year to sustain a health department. I think that's probably conservative. I think it would be more than that. And I also think it should be clear to everyone and the citizens and community that it's not just $4 million. There's going to be a startup cost. There's going to be a significant startup cost. You got to house the employees of a health department. These are dollars that would have to come from another part of our budget that we do not have and is not sustainable. Would I like to have a health department? Yes, I'd like to be able to make my own decisions. Yes, I'd like to have more control. But I also know this: we cannot intercept the money that goes from the state to Jackson County for the health department. So that's not $4 million. Jackson County they would probably dispute this, but they get more than $10 million a year for their health department. We can't intercept any of those dollars. We're already paying as taxpayers for a health department. We need a health department that does their job, that listens, that communicates. There's ways that we can have that we as a community can, because again, we share the same citizens. It's another one of those governmental entities. We share the same citizens, and they have a board. They have a county executive that's elected to do his job, or her, if the next one. And then there's legislative people that represent our community. And, they have a job to do. Whether we have a health department or they have a health department, Jackson County or Lee Summit, we're still in the same boat. Somebody has to do the job, and you all, as a community, we need to hold our elected officials accountable.
Diane?
Why are we even talking about a health department? Why did we even decide that we might need a health department? It was because of, and I'll say it without, I know it was the whole legislature, but I will just say the Jackson County legislature was they were putting issues on us and laws on us that were not giving us the freedom to do what as Americans that we could do. They were putting issues and mandates, and businesses were being closed, and businesses had to have this, people couldn't sit next to each other. And during a time that the pandemic was really bad, and that was fine for us to do that for 2 weeks, a month. And then it became 2 months, and then it became 6 months, and it became that's when we started talking about a health department. Do we need a health department? In regular days, I think we're perfectly fine with the Jackson County Health Department. During pandemics like what we just went through, no, we're not. Because we were given direction from people that had nothing to do with us, basically, and they were making draconian levies, and it's not even what it's called. I can't even say what it was called. But the mandates, and we were just constantly, I felt bad for all of our citizens, and I would have wanted to fight more. And I know that that the mayor was under, it's not easy. But I think the whole council at certain times would have gone down and as a group or wrote a letter or just told Mr. White that this isn't what we wanted for our citizens. Our citizens can make those decisions themselves. And I really feel like at that time that we were not, and that's why we're talking about a health department.
Good. Well, in trying to pull all this together then for our audience and our viewers, we'll start with you, Diane. If we were to meet at the end of your term as mayor, what would have happened to you and to the city to consider it a success?
I can only imagine myself 4 years from now as if where I am right now after 8 years. I think that the growth that we've gone through has been very, I think we've attained it. We've done really fiscally conservative. We've been fiscally responsible. We've tried to balance what we've balanced. We want to get choices, housing choices, good housing choices. I think I would just hopefully say that the people in Lee Summit thought that I represented them well. And I would hope that they would say that I was myself the first day that I was in office, the same person that I was the last day that I'm in office. I'm not going to be anybody than the person I am right now. I'm not a polished politician. I'm just a person that wants what's best for the city of Lee Summit and for myself, my grandchildren, my children, your grandchildren. I want them to live in a place that they love and they want to stay.
Bill?
I've got so many things that I would love to say. At the end of the 4 years, I'm going to look back and say, okay, we got PRI going. We have industrial buildings, bringing jobs here. I'd love to bring 1,000. I got 4 years. I think I can do more than 1,000 jobs. We can bring more than 1,000 jobs here. We're going to finish the farmers market and the performance venue. I would love to do some partnerships with school districts. I love the direction we're going with the colleges as well, the community colleges as well as the universities. I'd even like to, I would be very proud to say that we did that one affordable housing development where we had a success for the first time in 25 years. There's many things that I want to finish in this next 4 years, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Well, we'll let you take the next part of that question. Now that you're closing in on 4 years in office, what would you consider in the last 4 years your biggest success?
I would say it's the farmers market. We've been trying to buy that property for 20 years, for 2 decades or more. I came in, initiated the purchase with a plan. The council supported it. We got on board. It was multiple parcels. We put it all together. We got it purchased. We put an RFP out to do a public-private partnership. We have a funding mechanism with regard to we've sold millions of dollars of city property to be able to fund it. We already had the capital improvements for some of the infrastructure already in place, waiting. We got the partnership with the CID. They're going to contribute. We have $7 million in funds ready to go, or that we sold property for. We got a commitment from the CID, downtown CID, of $4 million. That was fantastic. They jumped all over this, got on board. We're on the same page. We're moving forward. This developer is listening to the community, engaging. There's going to be the private side of this is going to be fantastic. Potential boutique hotel, restaurant, retail, luxury apartments. But the fact is, I'm really pretty proud of this farmers market because I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see these final designs. I think we'll see the final designs in the next 3 to 6 months. There's been a lot of feedback that they've sought from the community, and yeah, that's what I'm most proud of.
All right. And likewise, Diane, you said you were closing in on 8 years in office. What would you consider the greatest success that you had during those last 8 years?
I think the best. I think there's several of them. I think the one that makes me happy is the development center at the city hall. We didn't used to have that, and when I first became council member, we decided that we needed a central place where people could go and get the answers, get the applications that they were needing. If they were thinking of starting a business or opening a business or building a building, where did they go? Before the development center, we didn't really have a certain place. I also think that the amphitheater is an amazing thing that we did while I was on council. I've been very fortunate that we've done some really good things while I've been on. We also have done the downtown marketplace that we've started that Bill is as proud of. We all worked on that really hard, and it was a lot of collaboration, and I think there's still more collaboration to talk about. But the downtown CID, they've worked very hard, and they've done an amazing job. and get with the farmers market for years. Our downtown Main Street committee, they've done an amazing job with that. I also think one of the things I think that I'm really proud of is, and some of you may remember it or may not, is the old Arnold Hall. And we had an old building, and it was Arnold Hall, and there were lots of different things that people wanted to put in Arnold Hall. And we settled on 3rd Street Social, and that brought something to our downtown that we didn't have before, and it's made it very vibrant. So I'm very proud that we did that as a group. We've done an awful lot of things together, and I've made a lot of good friends on the council, and I think that we don't always agree, and I think it's wonderful that we can sit down and do things like that. But I think there are so many things to be proud of.
And pulling this all together, the final question is one that comes from the audience, and we'll begin with you, Diane. What makes you the best candidate for mayor to lead Lee Summit over the next 4 years?
Well, of course, I think I'm the best candidate. I mean, if I didn't think I was the best candidate, I wouldn't be sitting here. And it's not to disrespect anyone. I'm a people person. I'm a person that I know that I can. I'm that approachable person that I think that I can bring us into a place right now. Because right now, I think that there are issues in our community that people want to talk about and they're afraid to talk about. I want to be that person, and I want a council that works alongside me and that we are working together. I have so many ideas about doing a meeting with every council, meeting with every district at least once every 2 months. We have 4 districts, and I tell you what, I think unless a mayor is meeting with those council members and asking questions and asking them what they want to do, what's going on in their district, you can get into a place where you don't know really what's going on if you're not engaging with each district. Do you get emails? I really try very hard to answer the emails. I'm sure Bill couldn't possibly answer all the emails as mayor. I know I've gotten some, but I think it's important that to represent the people that put me in the mayor job, that's who I'm going to represent, and I'm going to be the same person. I'm not real flashy, but I'm very passionate about the city, and I'm very comfortable in my skin.
Again, Bill, what makes you the best candidate for mayor to lead Lee Summit over the next 4 years?
Well, I think that I'll just address this head on. Consensus and collaboration building. Let's be clear that when I became mayor 4 years ago, the city council was fighting with each other, fighting with the city management, fighting with city employees openly, and with the help of Mayor Pro Tem Lopez and other council members, we changed the culture. We started trying to bring the temperature down, and how can we have and make objective decisions together, find the common ground that we've referred to tonight. I mean, I remember when I ran 4 years ago, people are like, oh, a civil decorum, that's really going to make a difference. That was one of my 3 priorities, was collaboration and a civil decorum. And I thank the Lord that I did have the council members that did help me, like Mayor Pro Tem Lopez, because I couldn't have done it alone. But it was a focus, it was a priority. You know, when we talk about going forward, that's a big priority as well. Culture is important to our community. It's important to your organization. It's important to our council, and that's why I'm the best candidate.
Well, lastly, I'd like to give each candidate an opportunity to provide any closing remarks. Remember, keep your remarks to 2 minutes or less. We'll go in reverse order of how we started with the opening remarks. The first person to close is Councilmember Diane Forte. Diane.
I think that we got along very well. I think that in the last 4 years, we've learned a lot. I think in the last 8 years, There was 2 years that we were very difficult, a very difficult council. The mayor Bill wasn't the mayor then, but we had some issues. But we've all gotten through them, and you get through things. I think we as a group have done an amazing job. I think that I personally have grown so much I've been through a lot on council. There have been issues that have come up, and I've made mistakes, paid my dues, and moved on. And you know what? I'm a better person for it. And no matter what happens, I'm a happy person. I'm going to still love Lee Summit. I'm going to still do everything that I can to make this a better community. But ultimately, I really feel like I'm going to be mayor, because I think I'm a positive person. So I think that I have a good support. Don't have a lot of money, but I have a good support, and I think people will get out and vote. I know I've made some amazing new friends. A lot of people have said to me when they've met me, "You answered my email." Do you know how good that makes you feel when you're a council member for 8 years and people said you answered my email? Did I fix their problem? Probably not. But I did get them in contact, and it wasn't my job. It was my job to answer my constituents, and I will always do that. So going forward, I hope to answer the people, and I hope that I will be the best mayor that Lee Summit's ever had.
Mayor Bill Baird.
Thank you. I started off the evening by saying that I want to keep Lee Summit moving forward. If you think back to the recession in 2009, it had a lasting impact. After a decade of nominal commercial investment in Lee Summit, in the last 4 years, our council has approved over $1 billion of new construction, with much of it coming from commercial investments. For the first time in 15 years, as I mentioned earlier, we welcomed and approved numerous high-quality buildings, over 100,000 square feet each. There's a total of 3 buildings, 800,000, plus another one that was mentioned earlier that we just did first reading on for another 160,000 square feet. This is how I've been a part of moving Lee Summit forward. Similarly, with many years of little to no progress, I did initiate the plan and the purchase for the farmers market. It takes vision, initiative, and follow through, but it also takes a resolve to seeing things through to the finish. In just 4 years, we not only adopted a strategic plan that took 18 months to get through, but we followed it with an airport master plan, and we did a year's worth of planning commission meetings to complete a comprehensive plan. When it comes to the culture, yes, we raised the bar on the professionalism of the council. And we raised the bar when it comes to how to treat our employees by getting them to market after being one of the lowest in the metro, and having a police department and fire department that were in the unthinkable status of losing our employees to other municipalities. Now, 4 years later, our police and fire departments are the destination for first responders because they have a city management and a city council that supports them. We have to keep up that support. We have to keep the door open to new businesses wanting to come to Lee Summit, and keep Lee Summit moving forward by giving me the opportunity to serve 4 more years. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for being here this evening and participating in tonight's forum. If you all want to clap, that's quite all right. We want to thank again our sponsors tonight, the Missouri Innovation Campus, for their hospitality, and this evening's sponsors, AT&T, the Missouri Association of Trial Attorneys, the Missouri State Teachers Association, the Lee Summit Tribune, and Spire for partnering with the Chamber. We appreciate our audience in attending this evening. We want to thank you for your engagement and interest in being part of this important and worthwhile process. As a reminder, we will be hosting our last candidate forum for the school board next Wednesday at 6:30 right here. So don't forget that, and be sure to show back up for that. In closing, we've done our part to help you understand what your candidates are about. What we ask you to do is to make sure you vote on April 5th, because we have a lot to do this year, and we have a lot to think about in our voting. So with that, I want to say thank you to our candidates and to thank you all for showing up. Bye-bye.